Is good enough here? You can hear us? Yes. Yes, I have a lot of information to present. I have more than just the machine guns. I also have some Fokker D7 information, but we'll see how the time goes. And we'll cover the machine gun stuff for sure, and then we'll see how it works out. Lloyd's going to advance through here and get to the proper starting point. By the way, when I came in with the machine gun, they were kind of eyeballing me at the front door. I said, "Don't worry, I'm with those school kids up there. I'm just trying to catch up." Too soon? Too soon? So, with machine guns, basically what I've done is I've studied the machine guns in depth for differences that they had in the manufacture of the gun itself. So, any changes they would have made between the earliest serial number I would have seen and then the latest serial number I would have seen, that's what I document. I have a big spreadsheet listing 500 guns that I've seen in person or I've seen in photographs where I can document different changes. And where's our pointer here, Lloyd? Oh, in your hand, okay. Now, some of the things that I'm going to just kind of mention. Is it the top one here?
Top one.
I'm pointing at myself or what?
No,
Oh, there we go. So some of the things I'm going to be,
there, I can barely see it.
well, anyway, some of the things I want to talk about are, for example, the placement of the serial number on the top cover. On early guns, they just had the number of the weapon. Then on the spring cover down here with this fusee spring cover, they had the arsenal and then the date of manufacture of the weapon. So that changed, I've got it on my chart, but it changed around early 1917. Then they moved the arsenal up onto the top lid. And then the spring cover only had a number on top of it. So now all of the information is on the top lid. We'll just go ahead and go through, where's the advancement?
You want to go forward?
Yeah. So here is, I'm showing examples of how the number at the far left, 58, that would be a very low serial number gun, and the number was large on the top cover. Then we have the arsenal information with the year, 1916 or 1917, that would be on the spring cover. Then the next one is showing gun number 6015, and then the information will be on the top cover of the gun. Then notice we have 6015A. The A is denoting 10,000, so this would actually be a 16,000 numbered gun, not 6,000. And then when they went to this B numbered guns, well actually late A guns also, the number got much smaller on the top of the gun, but on the side of the gun, they made it much larger. So, and I believe it was so they could see the number on the side of the gun without actually climb up into the airplane. You could actually look and see the side of the gun and get the number. The reason I wanted to kind of show this idea of 6015, 6015A, they did not have a 6015B, but for example, let's say if we dropped it down to 2000, there was a 2000, 2000A, and then there would have been a 2000B numbered gun. And the reason I kind of go into mentioning this is, like for example, the Red Baron, when they said, okay, we have relics of the Red Baron. I've got the original trigger lock, and it's numbered 679 or 1795A is one of them. The other one was 675 or 9, whatever it is. So the point is that to verify that this is really the piece from the gun from the Baron the day he was shot down would be tricky, because if it just said 695, well, that's not off of his gun. That's off a 1916 gun. If it says 695 with a little a, yeah, that's off of his gun. If it said 695 with a B, no, that's too late. That's the very end of the war. So, again, this would be a way to verify that this is the original piece from his original gun. And there have been pieces come up for sell for, I think Peter Jackson paid maybe $20,000 or something for the trigger lock out of the gun. And I looked at it to make sure that it was possible, because I was trying to tell him, hey, there's 3 guns that are numbered 695. So it turned out it was 695A. And also the thing is, there were spare parts with these guns. So they came with an armorer's crate. There'd be 4 spare barrels. There'd be flash hiders. There'd be all kinds of spare parts in there. So there would be extra trigger locks. So to say that is the trigger lock that was on board his plane the day he got shot down. But I mean, we have provenance with this, with the piece that he bought himself. But I'm just trying to make the point. It gets a little foggy. So, because there could be a guy back at the Yasta saying, "Oh, the Baron's not coming home today, huh? I'll take this box home with me. Nobody will know, I'll have some nice little souvenirs." So, which had to happen. So those souvenirs are probably around somewhere. And the actual guns, just to kind of finish the story of that, the actual guns have never been found. And we believe they must exist. There's photographs of officers holding them. And it's a matter of, who knows, Australia, England. But they'll show up one day. And the little footnote to that, I'd given all my information to Peter Jackson with the guns, and he sent me a email. He said, "Hey, look what I found in Australia." And I looked at the gun and the photographs. Sure enough, it's the Red Baron's numbers on the guns. And I'm like, what the hell? This guy found this damn gun? I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I'm looking. And I started looking closer, and he hadn't read my documentation correctly, and he did it like a B gun. So he had the number real small on top, had a real big number on the side, and I'm like, what the hell? This can't, but it says A on this, so anyway, I told him, "Hey, nice replica, but you got some details wrong." And he emailed back, replica, question mark, and all this. And I said, "Yeah, no, read my article, it'll maybe make it better next time." And so he wrote back, he goes, "Well, I bet you didn't know it was plastic." So he got me there. So that makes you aware of the different ones. Again, this is illustrating the size difference of this number that's on the side of the gun. The numbers were hand struck. The small ones, they're hand struck on the side of the gun. These big numbers are engraved. And I have, 13 guns at my booth here, so you can see examples of any different serial numbers. I have number 58, which is this one here, and then I have as high as around 23,000. And looks like gun production went as high as 24,000. That's what I've observed so far. This is showing the numbers on top of the spring cover. Earlier, they were engraved with this pattern, large, later, much smaller. This is showing rounds counters, or actually would be rounds remaining counters. So the clock type on the left, you would pull it out, it's got a spring, and dial it to whatever rounds you were carrying and drop it in, and it would count down. This one on the left, you had a little plunger at the bottom left of the square box there. You pushed up on it, and it released the wheels, and you could dial it to, again, what rounds you had when you left, and it would count down. Okay, here we have, these are showing different examples of the accoutrements for recharging the gun. That was a big deal with these guns, was the whole reason, like people say, "Hey, why didn't they put them out on the wings, like a P-51 or something, Why do they have to shoot through the propeller? It doesn't make sense." Well, because the ammunition was so poorly reliable. They had to recharge the gun quite often. It wasn't, people go, "Oh, no, they had jams." No, they didn't jam very much. It was just a dud. The gun just stopped running. So they had to clear the duds. So this was part of, Fokker came up with an invention for doing this, and the device he finally ended up with, he had several different ones you can see in development, but the final one was his top left, and there's a device that, I can't really, I'll point to the little flip-flopper device up there. Yeah, that little device on the side of the gun, the thing that Lloyd's pointing at, there's an arm flipped forward. Well, it flips forward and it flips back. This is what you would use to either clear the gun or recharge the gun. There's a famous little video of the Red Baron. He's getting in triplane. He's got the boots on and everything. He gets in, and you see him reach up, and he takes the handle and goes once, twice. Then he goes to the other gun, once, twice. And you're thinking, oh, he's, charging the guns, getting ready to go shoot. But actually, he was making sure the guns were empty because he was doing a photo op. And he has this device flipped forward. And when it's flipped forward, it will allow the gun to cycle internally, but not advance the belt. So that would clear the gun. You have to do it twice, because you do it once, and that just brings a bullet. There's a bullet in the chamber, and there's one on the belt, and it brings it down, and it goes forward, and you just put one right back into the barrel again. So you have to do it a second time, clear them both out, or make sure it's empty. So now when you flip it backwards, the little wheel on the end of that arm engages a cam that's up on the lever. And that cam up there makes the whole guts of the gun come backwards. And that's simulating the firing of the gun. The charge pushes everything backwards and makes the gun cycle, almost like an engine. And on the other side of the gun, we talked about the spring cover. That's where you adjust the tightness of the spring. So the tighter the spring, the faster the gun moves back, and that increases your rate of fire. So the softer the spring, the slower the cycle. And if you go too tight, ammo can't make the gun function. It's just not going to overcome it. Go too loose, and again, it's not going to cycle the gun. So you have to get the adjustment right. Normally around 340 rounds per minute is what I've observed in all the photographs I've looked at in action photos during World War I, about 340 rounds per minute. So we first have that device, like I said, at the top, and that's where the pilot actually would elect to either flip the lever back towards him or flip it away from him. Well, there must have been some mistakes. Maybe some guys were getting mixed up. I don't know, and they were clearing their guns or they're firing. They got so mixed up in the air, and they said, okay, this device maybe is not the best, so let's change it. So the second gun down, we now have the top device with the arm flipped back towards the pilot, and this one in the photograph actually is a casting. You'll find many early guns where they flipped it back, even this gun has it here, where they flipped it back and they drilled a hole through it and they riveted it. So you cannot, and actually they'll rivet it and they'll break the pin off. There's that we used to grab with your hand. They break it off and it's gone. And that makes it in the back position permanently. Then they attach this handle that goes down and back towards the pilot and then drops down with like a drop arrow. This is the type of handle that is on the MVR's 425. When he was shot down, it had these exact type of handles. So it's a pull handle is what I just call that. So with this, without going into a lot of details, when you wanted to clear the gun, you reached up and grabbed a little hollow ball at the top, click, 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 done. If you wanted to recharge the gun, you pulled that drop lever handle, you pulled it towards you, and it made the whole gun cycle, boom, and you're ready to go again. But even this, there's a lot of tension on that spring and it's hard to fight it. So they finally came up with this final version of the charging device, this big high handle, I call it. And I've seen two different types, one with a lot of holes in it, one with just two holes in it. And I think the one with lots of holes is made by, looks like a jobber did it, Carl Eichhorn. He made bayonets and whatnot, but you'll see the two little squirrels with their backs to back on those charging handles. So with this type of device, again, very similar to the pull handle. When you want to clear the gun, you just grab the little ball that's close to the pilot, click, you lever it, shunk, 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 you're clear. You want to recharge the gun, you grab the high lever, pull it back towards you. As it comes back, a gear on it engages a gear, pushes the whole guts of the gun back and forth. So this is pretty well covering all the different charging systems. So, so like you don't want to have if you were going to have a triplane project, you don't want to have these high handles on it because that will only be late 1918. So this will be a detail again, depending on what you're doing. Obviously the top one, you could use that throughout the entire war, but the pull handles, as far as I can tell, were probably introduced in 1917, and then 1918 they went to these high handles. Okay, go to the next picture. Right, this is kind of what I've already talked about. The left-hand one here, it's flipped towards the pilot, drilled and riveted. That's what that black dot is. The right-hand one, this is a casting. some guys used to call these, I saw articles where they called it a Klingstrom device. Well, they just couldn't read very well because the stamping wasn't very well. And I remember I was talking to a German friend, he's like, Klingstrom, what the hell's Klingstrom? I don't understand what the hell you're talking about. And I go, he goes, now, Lindstrom, he goes, that makes sense, but not Klingstrom. So when you look carefully, you can see it was C period Lindstrom. And maybe somebody that's into other things that are made for the Army, maybe that's a jobber that, you know, they go, oh, hell yeah, I know they made whatever, bayonets or something. So this again is showing at the bottom, the figure 1 shows how it flips forward and backwards, that device, and it's showing the base lever. Here they're showing flip back, and the base lever is pushed forward, and it's engaged that little half-round cam, pushing the whole thing back. So that's how, again, how you would recharge the gun. Next one. Okay, then we talk about synchronization. There's an early system and a later system, about 1917. Actually, these are showing variation of different types. At first, we have the top one here. It's pulsing the trigger once per revolution. Next one down, twice. And to get an idea of what's kind of going on here, this end over here on the right with the little square, it's pushing the trigger internally on the gun. That's pushing the trigger. So this one here is the best and the safest one they came up with, because you potentially could have a problem where with these earlier ones, if you stop the gun just right, or the motor I should say, or the engagement of the clutch system, if you stopped it just perfectly, you could have the point of that pushing the trigger in a kind of a runaway type of thing. And so obviously that's not good. Now with this, with the impeller and the 4 steel balls, this is so the centrifugal force pushes the balls to the outside of the circle. Then those balls will come around and hit this little plunger, which is going to actuate your trigger. We have 4 balls because this is coming off of the camshaft. Camshaft's turning half the speed of the crankshaft. So this is going to give us 2 shots per revolution of the engine. So that's what they did. It wasn't, you know, people sometimes say interrupter device. These were synchronizers. These were not interrupter devices. So the blade of the propeller would go by, and you would time this. There's an adjustment on this where the cable would come up, and you would adjust the cable so that, well, actually go to the next slide. I think it might show that. Yeah, these are the drive systems right here. This is a little bit earlier here. This is a single gun synchronizer. Actually, I have one on display out in the engine out there on the field. You can turn my engine, we engage it, and it shoots blanks. Bang, 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 bang. Actually, Fred Murren was nice enough to locate this for me. He found this top one he found on Craigslist, believe it or not. And believe that. And then I've been trying to get a hold of one of these dual systems. This is actually what should be on my project for like a Fokker D7. So we have a left and right machine gun drive. We would have on your trigger an L and an R. You would engage either or both guns. And that's what these little clutches do. So the fact that this system is really set by adjustment on that device that goes under the gun. So I could actually undo this clutch, take it off of the gun, put it in a box, which we see provisions for in the boxes that go with the guns to the front with the airplane. So, you know, what they get at the factory, they actually get the guns. That's what that opening photograph was at FALS. They have just, 100 guns laid out there getting ready to install them. So they'd install the guns, they'd sight them in, they'd synchronize them, get them all ready, pull the gun off of the aircraft with the synchronizer still attached to it, and put it in the box. And that had a piece of paper where they actually assigned that gun to that aircraft, and those parts then would follow that gun to the fluke part, and then it'd be delivered to the front. So, yeah, so anyway, that's really what's kind of going on here. This drive has, like I said, left and right machine gun in the center for your tachometer. This one's earlier, this is off a 2-seater. Well, actually, it does have 3 outputs, but a lot of times this was for a single gun operation. And, yeah, go ahead, next picture. Okay, so this is kind of the conclusion of it. This is a friend of mine sent me a picture in Austria. They have these guns in Vienna at the military museum. And they have an LMG08-15, which this is, and then they have an LMG08 in the original armor's crates with all the spare parts. So I have one of these crates as well. Mine has part of the contents list, but it's been torn out, but it shows the aircraft number and the machine gun number, but the list is gone. For whatever reasons, these don't have the list either. There are pieces of paper in here, but these were put in post-war. It's kind of unusual. We have a buttstock on this gun here, but we can see all the extra goodies that kind of come with it. Cleaning kit, the wrenches, the flash hiders. Right in front there will be 4 barrels down below. And one of these crates was marked Fokker variant 64/15, so it was actually showing that it was stenciled, as I said, to go with an aircraft and follow it. So, I forgot to put my little jacket on for the guns here.
Yeah.
So anyway, Lloyd's going to talk on the belts and.
Oh, you still got a couple more.
Oh, yes, right. Okay, what's the next slide? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is another little thing I'll finish up on, then Lloyd's going to jump on the belts. Okay, the cup holder. This is, I discussed this with Fred Murren and John Weathersea before I came down here just to kind of get their opinions. This is a picture of a Albatross. I can't remember if it's Albatross or OAW, but it's being restored in France. We've got the plane all uncovered. Here's a series of really great photographs for if you wanted to build a plane and get details. And this is what I call, we termed, Fred and I termed it the cup holder, you know, and go to the point. I'm sure you see the device I'm talking about here, right? It's got the strapped hole above and a strapped hole below, brackets. Okay, you know, what the hell is this thing for? You know, it's below the machine gun. The machine gun's gone. With the left gun, it would be below the gun, and it's right above the fuel tank. Does anybody have any guesses what it might be?
I do, because you told me.
So,
Hold your tongue, sir.
so anyway, so we've always been like, what the hell is this thing? And so I was at Vienna, and I got their drawings from them. And,
Well, we got 3 other views.
oh, yes.
3 other views.
Well, you know, yeah. So there's a cup holder again. And,
Front mount, back mount.
yeah, so you see, right, it's saying, right, the pipe's going forward and backwards. And then another photo here.
It's
From
only
the
on
back.
the left gun.
What's that?
Only on the left gun.
Only on the left, right above your main fuel tank. Okay, go ahead.
Front longhorn, and then it gets attached to the.
Yeah, that would be where the stirrup of the machine gun attaches right there, so the whole gun's going over the front. So go ahead. So in Vienna, they have, which I don't know how well known it is, but they have a series of Fokker drawings there because they were going to produce Fokker D7s in Austria. And they have 27 different drawings, original drawings, from Fokker variant that were sent down to Austria. This drawing was amongst them. It's the cup holder, but it's a little different version. This is the Fokker version, not the Albatross. So we have the strap here, and there's only one. Actually, let's see, yeah, there's only one of them. So it's not the dual version that Albatross came up with, but we still have the pipes going forward and backward to attach to the aircraft. So I was looking at this, and sure enough, go to the title page. So the title page on it, and I had to re-ink this because it was terrible. You couldn't read anything. So this is the mounting pipe for the aircraft destroyer. Okay, so this was, and I speculated or heard someplace, God knows how long ago, that this was a self-destruction device for the aircraft. But we'd always go, what the hell, self-destruction device? That's crazy. You know, but sure enough, here's the drawing and the title, self-destruction device. So, would you go forward or you go backwards? Go back. So, I looked at the drawing some more, and I'm trying to figure out how what's their idea here. What are they going to use? How are they going to do this? So I measured the hole, and the hole there in the clamps measures 84 millimeters. So I'm thinking about 84, and I'm like, 84. How about 88 millimeter? We can tie that in with artillery shells. So I'm like, okay, 88 millimeter shell. So I go on eBay, and I found a guy, and I buy an 88 millimeter shell from World War I. I didn't know if they made them or not. And I didn't know when they made 88 millimeter shells. Turns out the first ones were made in 1917 as an anti-aircraft cannon. They used 88 millimeter shells. So when you measure the flange down at the base is 88 millimeters, Oh, no, you got the photos, yeah, go ahead. And then, the main diameter of the body is 84. So, or actually, that's 84, this is 82 and a half. So it would fit right down in there. Now, I'm not saying they used an artillery shell. It might have been a special charge shell designed just for this, I don't know. And I'm not saying this is the answer, but it seems plausible. So right, there's the base of the shell. You can see how it's bigger than the diameter of the hole. And then go back to the other one real quick. And then you can see how that one's gonna fit down in there. I haven't had a chance to look at the distance between, like with that French one, it had the double ring, you know, and that indicates, again, we have something tubular. We have a certain given length that's already being defined by that aircraft. So again, this I think this might be a possibility. Now, how the hell they you know, lighted the thing off or made it go off, I don't know. I'm sure, as I said, probably a specially prepared charge. I've never seen a photograph of anything in the cup holder, any crashed airplanes, nothing anywhere. So gives you guys something to look for that are in the D7s.
And that brings up U10 and also Knowlton. When you guys take off the coverings for those, that would be interesting to see if they're there.
It is on a Knowlton, it's on Knowlton, yeah.
It's on Knowlton? Okay.
Yeah, but-
Is it that double strap one?
Well, the thing that's sort of surprised me, I know you're not really ready for questions, but on Knowlton, and in several photographs of aircraft, there are clearly openings in the cowl directly above that. The upper cowls overlap at that point, and both
Yes.
of them are semicircle cut. And that area is exposed to make whatever is supposed to be there accessible. It's clear of the gun on the Knowlton airplane, it's well to the port side.
Yes,
It's not
yes.
under the gun.
Under the gun, right. That's why I've always said it. To me, it's, you know, I mean, I've seen, we were talking about this last night, I've seen a crazy picture of, there was a Fokker E5, 359E or some crazy experimental one where they had a hole in the top wing, and it appears to me there's something on the left side that shoots straight up through the wing. And again, I haven't quite sorted that one out, but yeah, so the fact that you can't access that hole during flight, and it's right above the main fuel tank,
And it's
Well-
difficult from the ground as well.
right, I mean, like I
So
said,
even standing on the front tire, it's a reach back to where it is.
well, like I said, the drawing title says it all, you know, mounting to for aircraft destroyer. So we know, we know that's what it is. It's just a matter of, like I said, what exactly goes in there and how was it done. Yeah, Fred?
You might have mentioned, you didn't mention it in the photograph, but that is situated, in case people didn't notice, right above the gas tank.
Yeah, it's above the main tank on the left.
So,
Right.
Yeah, so you can see the gas filling that
You bet.
left there, so
So that would be effective.
it would be effective for setting airplane on fire, if that's what that was supposed to do.
Right.
Hopefully it was timed too.
Right. Well, when I spoke to Fred about this on the phone, Fred said, well, this is knowing how I'm not gonna fly with something that stuck in there, you know? You know? So, yes, go ahead.
Given the ammunition fires they had in the summer of 1918.
Correct.
This doesn't seem to be a really good idea.
Well, and that's a very good point. This drawing is dated May, go ahead, back up. It was May 18th of 18. So this would have been, like I said, before the accidents, but this was not done on the very, very first D7s. This would have been a little bit in, because I'm really well versed with early D7s, and I've never seen it on any of the frames with early D7s. So it must be starting with, I mean, we could actually probably figure out what serial numbers, but maybe around 500 or something like that, you know, would be around the serial number. But, yeah, so like I said, this is kind of it's always been a little mystery kind of thing, and this is just one possibility maybe. And like I said, if people kind of keep their eyes open, maybe we can get more to it. And I mean, we always heard about, you know, if you land behind enemy lines, try to destroy your airplane, you know. So that, I think that was the idea here. And they probably said, well, the D7, you know, we want to try to keep those out of their hands. Although if I remember right, they captured one by June 6th or something like that. Go ahead.
This is all speculation. Is it possible to use the business end of potato masher for a grenade? I don't know if
Yeah, I haven't measured one.
But didn't those have a?
Timer?
You said the primer, you smack the handle?
Yes, you bet.
If you had something with like a little hammer or something, you might be able to crack that.
Yeah.
Enough time to get out of there.
It'd be, a hammer, you're not getting to that thing. It's located down under the gun, it would really be tough. I would think you'd have to have some kind of remote something.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
How heavy is that shell? I mean, you know, critical weight is for aircraft.
Oh, well, it's gonna be negligible, and this is right over the center of gravity and all that, you know, this is not like you're strapped to the
Do
tail.
they normally fly with that thing in place, or do they just put it in when they anticipate the orders coming down to destroy their?
It's pointing
I mean, I think the intent is you have this in there all the time. Maybe maybe the reason with John talking about access, maybe when they landed, they would remove them. It would be just, again, speculation, but, you know. So anyway, that was kind of a little fun fact.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a timing on that in relation to parachutes?
Oh, I'm not a parachute guy. I like the thought pattern though. Okay, so I think that covers my initial stuff.
Okay.
And go ahead, Lloyd, you can finish up with the belts. And then I'll jump back in if we got time.
All right, so basically, I was contacted by the curator of the Australian War Memorial, and they wanted to know more about their artifact for the gun belt that they have that everybody wanted, or everybody says that it's from 425. They got basically good provenance from the belt. John White is at that time, or still is, was a senior curator there. I'm not sure if he's still there.
He's dead.
Is he dead? Okay. Well, he's the one that contacted me originally. So basically the collection was donated by Frank Rawlinson, and he has a lot of the other artifacts from the Red Baron's plane over there. And so they had seen this belt and they said, oh, it must be from the Red Baron's plane, because everything else was donated at the same time. John had also gone into referencing the book that they were using to try to research it, because they were getting too many inquiries on people saying no, it couldn't fit. That's not the right belt. So they were looking into Dolph's book, The Devil's Paintbrush. Yeah, so they were using that as a reference guide to see if they could find any reference material on the guns. All right. So he basically goes ahead and just states that the gun could be used with either the parallel belt or the Maxim belt. So he does state that. And then he had gone into more providence about the other artifacts that they had there at the museum. Okay. All right, I'm going to go into the next one. All right, so now going back into basically the evidence that we have. So one of the reference materials that they used was Dolph's book. And it's basically all on the Maxim gun, but there is a chapter in there on the Spandau gun. The problem with that is it wasn't written technically by Dolph, it was done by Dave Watts. So, and the other thing is the article or the chapter that he did doesn't actually cover the type of belts that were used. He was just going into the guns. So the images that he had in the manual, along with the gun manuals, are basically all the same. So these are the typical images that you would see in any reference material for even the Spandau guns or Maxim guns. They're all the same. They're almost identical from one to the other. They're all using the Maxim gun belt with the 3 rivets with the 60 millimeter spacer tang. Okay. Now, one thing Dave likes to point out too is the spacer tang on the the Maxim belt, that was actually designed for the ground troops. So when they were bringing the ammo cans in and the ammunition would get jostled around, they could actually just lay it on the side, chunk it down, and then now they got proper spacing. Those are actually spacing tanks. Okay? So now they can just throw it on the ground and then feed the bellet in, and now they're all in proper alignment. All right. So basically, with through all the manuals and everything that we had looked through, we couldn't find anything. The only thing we did find was a manual that actually had an addendum in it for a parts list for an actual Spandau aircraft gun. There's no aircraft manuals available. It's all just Maxim information. So I had to turn to photographic evidence, starting with Fokker factory photos. Since Fokker was basically the one who invented the, if you want to believe it or not, the interrupter gear into the synchronizer, he always used and was always supplied with the parallel belt, which is the 30mm belt with the 2 rivets on it, and you can clearly see the 2 rivets. Another shot with a close-up of the belt. The gun here is actually an early gun with a kind of a clutch mechanism. There he's testing out early recharging mechanisms, and that's what all the pulleys and the cams are over there. This is actually the same gun, but now mounted on a frame sideways for test firing. So they start up the motor, and then it's basically almost direct drive right into the main drive of the gun on the bottom. Okay. The ammunition standing on basically the fuselage, again, it's the same ammunition. It's the 2 rivet belt, and you cannot see the spacers every 3rd round. Along with the other clue is the height of the belt. If it was a parallel belt, the actual height of the belt would go probably up to right about here. If it was a Maxim belt, all the parallel belts are down here. Don't know if anybody knows about it, but it's been floating around for a while. But Fokker did make a minigun. So this is the complete setup of the actual minigun with the 12 barrels. The importance of this is he even found it important enough to include the parallel belt even within the minigun, not the Maxim belt. Another factory photo. Now we're getting into triplanes, V4s. Again, showing you the 2 rivet belt, no standoffs. The standoffs is a 60mm tangs, and would be every 3rd round. Now we got Anthony Fokker loading in the belts to time out, I guess, test firing the guns. You got plats on the ladder there. And the importance of this is it is a parallel belt, which you can clearly see here. And the other interesting thing is, as we're going forward with the research, is as you feed it through, it has to come through also the other end. The other end is the belt down tube. The belt down tube actually has then the down tube where the belt would feed down. But this one is a very early style where they have an access lid, and on all the prototypes, 102 and 103, they actually had them all open. There was no closed lids. So every time I see a photo of them, I've never saw them closed. They were always open. So So now we got, this is that one with the DR1. It's actually photographed with it's on its nose, and they're taking photographs of it, basically. Okay, and you can clearly see you have the parallel belt with the 2 rivets in there. So now we're actually going from factory now into production. Okay. Thank you, Greg. This is one of Greg's photographs that he shared with me, and the cool thing is, I mean, it's a forced landing where they're dismantling the guns, or dismantling the plane on the field, and they're going ahead and they've already pulled the belt out of the belt return tube through the actual access panel, and about to actually then take off the feed block. There's a close-up of the 2 rivet belt from the same photograph, along with showing you little roughly, there's a lid right here now. This is actually the 3rd style of down tube access panel now. This is actually the 3rd style, and this is actually the main production build that they used for a lot of the main productions of the DR1s. It has a hinge with some rivets, and it actually has a spring, and it opens up. You open it up, and it keeps it open, and then when you close it, it forces it closed by the spring tension. Another photograph of it later on, they've already taken the cowlings off, the wings off, but now they've actually taken out the feed blocks, and the feed blocks are actually still attached to the down tube. So the down tube is right here. You can't see the feed block, but the feed block is still attached to it because they're actually screwed in. They don't have pins on here. I think, was it Albatross or Falks possibly used like a pin that they could pull and then it would release. So there's that one that you have on the. Okay. This is the crash or the captured photo of 147 where they're hauling it off, and I think it's on a truck, and I think the front landing gear is on a truck, and they're just hauling it off. They've already taken the guns off, but then still again, it's very hard to see, but this is still the parallel belt. You don't have any of the spacers, and you can tell where just by where the front of the belt is, you can tell that it's a parallel belt versus the Maxim belt. Another shot, 419, showing you the top edge of the belt, no spacers. So it's still a parallel belt. So what I was trying to do is find any photographs of any DR1s that actually had any other type of belts that were used. And all I was finding was this constant theme of the parallel belt, and that was it. The 3 Spandaus. Wow. All right. Even in here is the 2 rivet belts. Obviously, I think that was deemed a little too heavy. Another factory photo of D7. Doesn't really show you anything about the ammunition side, but you do have the down tube. So just getting a sense of the size of the actual down tube itself going into the belt return canister below it. I'm sorry?
Where's the cup holder?
This is actually early production, so they probably wouldn't have had it
This
done.
might be one of the first 10.
Yeah, so this would have been April or so, February of 1918. Okay. So now we get down to the Baron's guns. The great photo of the British soldiers holding the guns, and you can actually tell the size of the down tube compared to even the size of the actual jacket itself.
And even his grip.
If you notice, he's actually holding onto here, and it's highly secured because the down tube is actually screwed into the actual feed block itself. So it's very secured.
Here's the pull handles you can see.
Oh yeah, right there. So there's the standard pull handle with the charge. You just pull it back.
And one other quickie I'd like to note is this seldom probably known by people. This has the machine gun drive on all rotary aircraft is this vertical drive. It's a round circle going. So instead of the drive going into the front, the drive comes from underneath the ammo boxes and goes up to the bottom of this gun, spinning it this way. So this would be a rotary type of machine gun synchronizer. Can't quite see
Yeah,
it there,
can't
but
quite
we have
see
it in
it,
the
yeah.
drawings. The other one comes in straight in front.
All right, so here's basically the close-up when they've actually now put the guns down, I believe, and they're leaning up against the fuselage. And we still see the down tube. There's the spring, so now we know, again, the spring is matching the third style or the later style of the down tube access panel. And again, there's the main drive right there. And let's see if this actually works. So this is the video. Basically just showing you the crash site with the guns on the side. Well, it's running real slow, but that's fine. Being picked apart, going, hey, I'm taking some home. This is a great scene here.
Another small detail, this gentleman here, can you back up?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
This gentleman over here, he's holding, and he'll let go in a second. This is the normal recharging handle, it goes this way. When you see it forward, I know for a fact, he just removed the trigger lock from this gun. And someone tried to cycle this, so someone opened the gun up, took that trigger lock as a souvenir, and then they closed it again. He went to cycle the gun and went forward, and there's an internal device that will fall down and jam up, and then the handle will be stuck there. You cannot get this open, you cannot get it to cycle back unless you open it up and really get into it. I think actually both show signs that they've already been souvenired at that time.
All right, so now we start working on the other side of the gun with the down tube side. Again, the early style, just on the prototypes with the open access panel. It's really hard to see on all the photographs because they're not too clear on 102 and 103. Then you got the down tube coming down here, so it's coming all the way down, around here, and then down. Second style. This was just on the early, from what I found, it's just only on the early production built DR1s, where it actually now converted into an actual hinge that they riveted, and they're actually now, they got a kind of a thumb hold down that they could pull up and down, and it's actually clamping with the middle bent around the outside, kind of holding it in place, and then they can just pop it open. The third style, this is the late style, where they had now converted into, they just got a little thumb tab that they put in there so that you can just grab their hand and just pop that open and close. The latch is actually, or the hinge is right here, and then this is the piece that's just holding on to the spring to keep tension on it in the open or closed position. The down tube itself was actually attached to the feed block through these holes. So they would actually screw 3mm holes through the down tubes, securing it to the feed block. The one thing that I have seen is they're not consistent. So it was because these are more parallel. This one's a little higher. This one's a little lower. So the different ones that we see, it's not like a jig that they're setting up and they're all drilled the same. It's inconsistent. So there's a lot of inconsistency with the placement of the holes. Why, I don't know.
Well, and you can see the little screw at the top left that's come out of the hole.
Yeah. All right, now the Maxim belt. Here's the Maxim belt with the 60 millimeter tangs. It's a 40 millimeter belt. You got the spacers every third shell. On the beginning of the belts, you have a leader. It's a metal tanged leader. Again, it's 40 millimeters with the 3 rivets on there. You try to stick that through a down tube, which is right here, guys. It won't fit. I give the measurements of the down tube. So the OD is 40 millimeters. The inside is about 37. These are actual parallel belts that are a little different. The one on the bottom is a one piece that they just fold over and then the rivet. The 3 on the top it's the same thing, it's a one piece, but they put in a corner relief. For people that don't know, every 25th round, they are also now indicating on the belts every 25th round, so when they take out the belt, they know how many had been spent. They can count them very quickly. They don't have to count 1, 2, 3. This is a parallel belt now. The one problem is these are actual parallel belt, German parallel belts. This one here, they're single. It's actually 2 pieces of metal on each side and then riveted. Technically, it's not German. We think it's maybe Belgium. Okay, but it's close enough. Same dimensions though. What did I just do? There we go. The spacing on here is approximately accurate. So you got the spacing correct with the top of the belt right below the curvature. Because the parallel belt, or I'm sorry, the Maxim belt would have gone well up to approximately about here. Well, there's a parallel belt just fitting really nicely through the down tube. So there's a real good indication that there's no way that I could probably fit a Maxim belt through that tube. I don't think I could squeeze it. Maybe bend it and force it, but I don't think it would work too well. I like the belt over on the side. If you take a look at the number, gentlemen, 475. What does that indicate? Most parallel belts, there was the argument, well, they only made 100 round belts. Well, no, these were 500 round belts. So there's proof that there's 475, so we're pretty close to the end of the belt. Okay. I did try to take a look at the canisters to see if there's any indication that could lead me anywhere with this. So you got the feed, and then the feed canister, and then the return. So there's nothing here as far as there's no indication, because this would hold both parallelum or, so there's no indication, and also why it's so wide. So the feed is in the front, and that's basically 98 millimeters wide, and then the belt return tube, or belt return box, is approximately a little bit narrow. It's about 80 millimeters wide, according to the drawings. And that is it. So basically, from the conclusion, from all the photographic evidence, there's no documentation that we can say, yes, this is it, but all I can do is draw on the photographic evidence through Fokker, and I'm not saying any other aircraft factory, because I'm saying that anytime that you see a feed block with the 2 holes in it, it's a Fokker feed block, because I don't believe other aircraft factories use the same thing. There's other aircraft that use the Maxim belt, but I can't prove it. Yeah. So,
Right, and I think the point is that I believe instead of saying a parabellum belt, you should really term the 2-rivet belt as an aviation belt for World War I. It's not,
right.
it's not a parabellum belt. They used a standard belt for all the aviation, I believe, with the parabellums and the Spandaus, and that was the standard belt that they used. So ground belts were used with ground guns, and that was pretty much it. One little quickie I want to cover, and I know we're about 2 minutes over. I kept seeing photographs, looking at earlier pictures, like especially triplanes, where this booster assembly that goes on the end of the gun, this is the standard booster assembly that you normally would see on a Spandau. This large bell, which is the booster, and then this is the flash hider on the end of it. And I constantly kept finding photographs where I would see this on the guns. Well, this gun guys would say, oh yeah, that's an 08. That's an 08 booster flash hider assembly. So why am I seeing an 08 booster flash hider assembly on an 08-15? That's really the question. But more so than that, when you start getting down to brass tacks, the hole opening in an 08 booster assembly will not fit the barrel of an 08-15. The barrel of an 08-15 has, brought the wrench just in case. It has like a gland on it that, like I said, you cannot fit the barrel into the 08 booster. So that meant one of 2 things. Either the barrels were different on these early 08-15s, or the flash hider was different. Something was different. And now this, by chance, I've left in here. This is an 08 barrel. Just has threads on the end. An 08-15 has what they call like a gland nut here. So this will fit because it's an 08. Well, and actually, I bought these from Russia, only $600 a piece. But that one's not bored out well enough to fit. This one does. But even then, they didn't do the threads right, so it won't thread in. But anyway, nice. So, but you get the point. So you will see pictures exactly like this. Guns with this. Voss's 103 has these on it. Most guys probably do modeling. They're going to put this one on it, not these. His gun numbers are 5848 and 5849. I've seen as high as Langdon Badger sent me some photos from Australia off the guns off the Albatross, 7849 and 7857, I believe. And they are straight like this. The nice thing about this is the fact that these are war relics. Oftentimes they are taken off of an airplane and they're frozen in time. So whatever's on them, it stays and it doesn't get changed because these guns were normally not fired. Whereas water-cooled guns, well, guys would play with those forever, So they had a gun here for many, many years on display, number 405. 405 has a straight booster assembly like this. I tried to request to get the gun to show today, but the bottom line is I did a thread on Aerodrome Forum. You can actually look it up. It's called Booster Quandary. And finally a guy piped up from France, Sam Rampant. That's at least the name he uses on the thing. And he had several parabellums. He had LMG08, LMG08-15s. This guy had a whole bunch of guns. And sure enough, he had the early booster assembly on the 08-15. And he demonstrated, had photos where he took it all off. And the booster had a bigger hole in it to accommodate what we would call the 08-15 barrel. So what's that mean? And I've had guys go crazy on me, gun guys that are ground gun guys. They're like, oh, that's BS. There's no way in hell, you're seeing stuff. They had some sitting at the at the Yas or something. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. So, I can't explain exactly why, but I can say that when they went from the 08 to the 08-15, they, of course, that was to save weight on the gun. I believe that they were stressing aircraft production. So they said, okay, let's get these guns in production now, and let's get the aircraft guns going. Spandau's the only arsenal, and I'll correct that in a moment, the only arsenal that made aircraft guns in World War I. And Spandau, you see from Dolph's book, where he records so much good history on water-cooled guns, no other arsenal makes 08-15s in 1916, only Spandau. And I believe it was because they were given the green light. Let's go, let's get these guns going, let's get these aircraft guns going. And when you look at the production numbers, they were making equal aircraft and water-cooled guns at the same time. Pretty quickly, they go into making a lot more water-cooled guns. And, of course, then everybody else is making water-cooled guns. So that's just a theory I have as to why you see these, because I've never seen these on any other water-cooled 08-15s. But you're, like I said, it might be a small window to get the right photographs. Anyway, but the point is, if you're modeling and you say, hey, I want to get my Voss airplane right, or if you're doing a V1, or if you're doing a D5, they would have these boosters on them. So it's something, and they actually are a little bit different form than this. They're not exactly like these 08s. They're a little bit different. So that was one little quick thing I wanted to mention, and see, there was one other point. But yeah, so that's, yeah, a little fun thing if you're doing, if you want to get the details right. Should have the early booster assembly on early numbered guns. So I think it pretty much covers. I have a whole other thing I was going to do about rudder and Fokker D7s, but we won't touch that. So I think we're about a little over. So any questions, guns, belts? I think we hammered that one pretty good, huh? I think that's it. All right, guys.